Testing. There we are. Testing. Okay. Go.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. This is Brian Smith along with
Gary Smith,
giving you all the greatest details and breaking news of the last week, the future to come, everything you need to know. You'll hear it here. If you don't hear it here, you don't need to know it. Today is May 24th, 2015. This is the Memorial Day weekend, and this is our Memorial Day special. And Carrie Smith is now plagued with a PC virus, referred to as a Trojan.
Under task managers, there are no tasks.
Not even Windows.
Well, the applications is blank. When I click on processes, it is littered with exe files.
Well, that's a problem. You're running way too many processes and no...
Nothing that's supposed to be running is running.
Nothing's running.
No applications are running, but there's like 150 processes.
And you know what? You know what's going on right now? The computer. You know what it's doing to you?
What would that be? Yeah, it is doing that.
That's exactly what it's doing. And Carrie is...
No, that's the computer.
Oh, trying to fix itself.
Yes.
Trying to clean out all the clogged... Well, I will have to say we just got back from the Indianapolis 500. Went to Indianapolis, obviously, on the west side. Got there early enough, beat the crowd. Walked out on the track, which is the first time I've ever done. It's pretty awesome. Got some great photos of the track. We were on turn 1, which to anyone who's listening is the greatest turn to be on. We saw the wrecks. We saw the pit stops. We saw everything you needed to see. We also saw the pink cancer car in last place the entire race. And at one time, she was almost 10 seconds behind the last place car. So she was 10 seconds behind the second to last place car and 3 seconds away from the first car that was about ready to pass her.
Yeah, the leader was only 3 seconds behind her, so I followed until the next lap and timed it again, and then she was only 2 seconds.
And if you haven't heard the winner and you are DVRing this to watch it for a later date,
or if you stop it now because we are going to spoil this for you.
Or if you have it on VHS or beta, go ahead and turn this off for 30 seconds.
You mean if our show's on VHS or beta? Click on that pause button.
Right, hit the pause.
Or eject, whatever.
Because you had to, back in the day, hit play and record at the same time.
Well, no, you don't want to do that because then it'll erase what you're listening to. Oh, anyway, Juan Pablo Montoya.
Exciting race. The winner of the 99th running of the race. It's over 100 years old, but it's 99th actual race.
Right. The first official 500-mile race was in 1911. Can you believe that?
I can't. That's amazing.
But that wasn't even the first races they did there. They opened it up in 1909 and did some races, but there was no 500-mile race until 1911. But what happened was they opened up the speedway, which was just a bunch... it was crushed limestone.
Nice.
They just tamped it down with those a steamroller, and it was a steam engine steamroller. Yeah. Nice. And so they had that thing all done like that with the crushed limestone, and then they ran some races. I think the longest race that weekend was a 250-mile race, but I might be wrong. I knew there was probably like a 50, 100, and a 250.
Could you imagine having a brand new car in 1909?
Yeah, you
and attempting to drive 200 miles straight.
Or 250 miles.
250 miles.
I think it was a 250-mile race.
Could you imagine?
That was the main event. There were all these other shorter, smaller races. But the track's 2.5 miles long. The track as it exists today is almost identical to the course that was originally built. So what happened is it was crushed limestone.
Oh man!
So as the cars were going around this track, they were producing ruts. And don't think because this is 1909 that these cars are going 30 miles an hour. I mean, they were going probably in the anywhere from the 60 to 90 mile an hour range.
Okay, remember back in the 80s, your first car.
Yeah.
Remember being on the freeway from a car built in the 80s. Remember going on the freeway and trying to get up to 80.
Well, back in the 80s, if you had to go up a long, steep hill, you weren't going to get to the speed limit.
No.
Unless maybe if it was a brand spanking new car.
The steering's starting to shake, the brake pedal's shaking, the gas pedal's shaking, your seat's coming loose, and you hear it clankety clankety clunkety clunk.
And you're decelerating as you're going up the hill, and you're just thinking, I hope that my rate of deceleration doesn't get me to zero
before
I get to the top of the hill. Yeah. At that point, we're just going to have to let the engine cool down for a while.
Wow.
But anyway, so yeah, they were going probably close. Now, I don't know what the top speed was back in 1909, but it was definitely extremely dangerous. It was kind of like a soapbox derby car.
You're right.
Except instead of made out of a little plywood and it's so light you could pick it up, it was heavy and big.
When we saw some of the cars that they had out there on display, some of the old cars from the past, amazing what they were doing back in the past with little to nothing.
Well, imagine you're in one of those, going 90, it gets sideways, and then you have a rollover.
It's all over.
Right.
I mean, to live through something like that, forget about it.
So what happened is they're getting going around here, and as the races are going and progressing throughout the day, ruts are developing in this crushed limestone. Actual ruts.
Wow.
Because I guess what would happen was the cars would follow the same lines. It was almost like a follow the leader type thing.
Right. So, which they still do now.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all black. Yeah.
So they would develop these ruts, and if you hit a rut just wrong, imagine a perfect example. Today, or I should say this winter, every winter, when you get a bad snowstorm and maybe the trucks don't get out there in time,
right?
And you're driving on a road, it could be the highway. A highway would be a good example. And the only part of the pavement you could even see is the tracks of the tire in the lane.
Oh, man.
There's a snow in between the tires, a snow outside of the tires, and there's a lot of people on the highway that'll be going 60 miles an hour. Or maybe even more, or at least, 45, whatever. Have you ever tried to change lanes?
Oh, dude, you get squirrely.
Really squirrely. Well, now imagine doing that in a car built in your garage from scratch in 1909. And instead of snow, it's gravel. And that's pretty much what the road was like. And so what ended up happening was 4 people died in the first weekend. Yeah, 4 people died. And they just kind of try to sweep it under the rug. Meanwhile, people, that were opposing it, once the deaths happened, were going to lobby to just completely crush the whole thing and never have races ever again. And so they ended up compromising with a deal where they would put this newfangled pavement stuff down called bricks.
Nice. So that's where it gets its name, the Brickyard 500.
Well, no, the Brickyard 400 is what but they call it the Brickyard.
Okay, the Brickyard. Okay.
Yeah, so they ended up ordering millions of bricks and paved a 2.5 mile oval, or I wouldn't call it oval. It's more like a rounded rectangle, I guess you'd call it, with bricks. And they didn't have another race. They didn't have anything in 1910.
Well, it says here on the wiki
that
this attracted 15,000 paying customers and crowds up to 40,000. They persuaded the owner, Carl G. Fisher, to spend $155,000 to repave the track with bricks.
Okay. By the way,
can you take a stab at how many bricks were used?
Oh, it had to have been over 1 million.
3.2 million bricks.
Wow. Well, by the way, Fisher, for those of you who are car buffs, that was Fisher of Fisher Bodies.
Oh, We heard the story from your mom.
Was it my mom?
Yes.
It could have been my dad. It was the Body by Fisher. If you ever,
when they say a body by Fisher, your mom told us that.
Yeah, it's what the guys would say back in the day if they saw a girl that had a nice body. They would say Body by Fisher, but it was in reference to the GM cars used bodies designed and made by was it Charles Fisher?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the Fisher we're talking about. So we're going all the way back to the turn of the century. But anyway, so then they had the 500-mile race on the bricks in 1911, and it was a huge success. But they didn't know it was going to work.
Right.
This is really cutting-edge technology using bricks for a paving surface. There was a story that they did a small section, and in order to prove that the cars, they literally thought this. They were really worried. They thought that the cars could kick up a brick. Possibly, yeah. So what they did was, that after they got the bricks down in a small section, they did donuts on it and peeled out and just drove like nuts on it to try to dislodge the bricks. And of course, we all know now that don't happen.
Right.
And so they said, great, it works. Let's pave the rest of the thing. So they paved the rest of it. And then they had the 500-mile race. And then it's been a tradition ever since, only stopping during World War I and World War II.
So apparently, Harmon invented the rear view mirror in 1911 for the first race. Who won?
Yeah, the thing about the Indy 500, which I've always found fascinating and depressing at the same time, because it doesn't do this. The Indy 500 is more of a ceremony of what it used to be. That's all it is. You get some drivers that are probably the best in the world. They put them in cars that are all identical, and you run around, and they it's just not the same as what it used to be. Back in the day, the Indy 500 was all about getting on the cutting edge of the automotive industry.
Yeah.
And so everything that people were doing for the Indy 500 would then be modified and adopted into the auto industry. And a lot of people would say that about NASCAR too, but NASCAR was more stock type things. But the Indy 500, I mean, we're talking brick pavers. You know, they were using that as a racing surface, and the tires were being developed to try to win the race, and all the different car manufacturers, and didn't.
Well, let me give you a tidbit of information on how far we have come as a politically correct and all-inclusive nation.
Okay.
Called America.
We have a political angle here to the Indy 500.
Female participation of any sort at Indianapolis was discouraged.
Was it really?
And essentially,
based on what?
And essentially banned throughout the first several decades of competition.
Is this in writing? Where did they get this? They're just saying
this is on Wiki.
Okay, it's a wiki, but
as such, female reporters were not even allowed in the pit area until 1971. There have been 9 female drivers to qualify, starting with Janet Gunther in 1977. Sarah Fisher has competed 8 times, the most of any woman. Danica Kirkpatrick led 19 laps in 2005 and 10 laps in 2011. The only times a woman has led laps during the race ever. Her third place finish in 2009 is the best for a woman ever. Danica Kirkpatrick.
Okay.
I didn't know she ever got that close to finishing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no.
The thing we talk about, she'll never win because she never pushes the edge.
Yeah, there's
of the
definitely a lot of psychology and I guess I would call it nuanced psychology in auto racing and top levels of a lot of sports. You know, I see it in wrestling and stuff like that. But in anybody's case in racing, you could either do well and never wreck, or you could try to win and you're going to sacrifice a couple cars in the process.
Right.
And I think early on, I'm not sure why, I would love to interview her and find out if maybe what happened to Sarah Fisher before she came along influenced the course she decided to take.
Right.
Basically what happened was when Sarah Fisher was racing, she was pretty balls out.
And for those of you who are sensitive to the term balls out,
it doesn't mean what you think it means.
It has no connotation that can't be talked about on the radio.
Right.
Balls out, which I learned officially today, had no idea what it meant, means...
Well, I guess it's a steam engine. As a steam engine runs up and gets a little speed, I guess you could say.
Right. The RPMs get going.
Yeah, the RPMs are up. It could run away. If you ever heard of a runaway engine, it's kind of like the RPMs would go up until it explodes.
Right, it's just non-stop. Just keeps going all the way to the top.
It doesn't stop accelerating until it explodes. So they put a governor on it. And the governor keeps it from, I guess, rotating RPM-wise.
Too fast.
Yeah, it actually governs the top throttle, I guess. And you'd have to look at this in a picture. Maybe we could link it or something like that. But as the RPMs go up, these weighted balls would spread out. And if you know anything about physics, as the balls, any weighted object, spreads out that's rotating, it slows the rotation. And if you bring the weight in,
it speeds up.
Right, it speeds up without any extra energy added. Just same energy, closed system.
So when somebody says, let's go balls out.
Yeah, at top throttle, the weighted balls would go all the way out to their outermost diameter.
Which would keep the engine from moving any faster or spinning any higher RPM-wise.
Yeah, even if you added fuel. Yeah.
Right.
The governor prevents it from going. So that's what balls out mean. But anyway, so Sarah Fisher, she was a balls out racer.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. I was there at her first time trials. And I remember when she whipped around that track, I was just like, and she was 18.
Knock it out!
She was 18 years old, and we were all just like stunned. Everybody in the crowd was stunned at her performance at the time trials. And I think she may have even gotten 8th in the starting grid.
Wow.
And then during the race, she raced just like she was in the time trials. I mean, she was fearless. And then she ended up wrecking, and she actually wrecked several times over the years, and all the early wrecks were not even her fault. These were one of the wrecks, which really, I mean, it ended Lyn St. James's career.
Right.
There was this old battle axe. Lyn St. James started racing back in the 70s, I think, maybe late 70s or early 80s. And she may have been one of the first female racers ever.
Wow.
And she was an old battle axe in her last years. And she was really... Nobody knew this at the time, but she was really insulted that she couldn't get the limelight of being the female driver.
Oh.
Nobody knew it at the time.
Right. A lot of times you don't know. Especially, like nowadays we know because they make it a point to bring the drivers up. They're on the big screen. They don't have their helmet on.
Nobody was talking about Lyn St. James, but we just all thought, well, it is what it is, and she's just happy to be there. No, she wanted to be the token female driver. And when Sarah Fisher came along and was like tearing it up, she was getting passed. Lyn St. James was getting passed by Sarah Fisher. And as Sarah Fisher was passing her, Lyn St. James said, "Oh, no, you didn't!"
Yep.
And went wham! And sideswiped her, and they both crashed.
Nice.
And it was so blatantly obvious. I think that the public outlash was so severe. I think that was it for Lyn St. James. I think she was scared to even show her face in public after that. But anyway, so that's Sarah Fisher. What ended up happening to her was she wrecked so many cars that they gave her an ultimatum. They said, "Listen, honey, sweetie pie, don't you worry your pretty little head." No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to get Brian's attention. He's over there. He's doing some producer work over there. No,
I'm discussing issues with the producer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, didn't mean to get off course there. But she was given an ultimatum. You better stop wrecking, or you're done.
Oh, wow.
So guess what she did? She hung out in the back of the pack every single race. She didn't wreck anymore, and it was painful to watch. She was as bad as Simona today.
Oh, and let me tell you, Simona in the pink car, they threw the blue flag at her, which I'm being honest with you, I watched a little bit of racing, but not much. I never knew that there was a such thing as a blue flag with a line through it.
Yeah,
red line through it. When they throw that at you, that means get out of the way.
Yeah, and if you don't adhere to those commands of the flag, of the blue flag, they can black flag you.
What did they say? The first couple laps, they gave
her verbal warning. I couldn't. Oh no, was it verbal or visual?
A visual warning.
I erupted in laughter because it was kind of a quiet time. All the cars were on the opposite side of the track, so it was kind of quiet in our stands. And as soon as he said that, I was the only one. Was I the only one that heard that, or was I the only one that found humor in it?
We both found humor in it. However,
I busted out.
Your
laughing.
Eruption of laughter.
Nobody laughed with me.
I don't think
they were scared.
Yes, I think they were nervous to laugh.
Yeah,
maybe
the announcer actually goes, and Simona Di Silvestro just got a visual warning, and this is a quote verbatim: a visual warning about her driving. We were just like, what? Oh, we couldn't stop laughing, and it was odd because everybody's like, what was he laughing about?
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There was no specifics. It wasn't like, oh, because she's in the way or she's driving too slow. Just about her driving.
In general.
I've never heard that from an announcer before. Wow, her driving is so bad, we got to give her a blue flag. Right. It's like, wow.
Then the reason why we're talking about this race, well, obviously we were there, but the second reason we're talking about this race is because it happens the last weekend of every May, every year, once a year, happens on Memorial Day weekend, which was instituted by Carl Fisher.
It was?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's Carl. I said Charles earlier. My bad. I meant
when I say
Carl.
institute, the race was planned for this weekend on purpose. Just for.
Oh, you mean he's part of the decision making to make the race on Memorial Day?
Correct.
Okay.
However, Memorial Day started right after the Civil War.
Oh, okay.
And there were. It was in Memorial Day was kind of a thing that women in Pennsylvania started to do in 1864, right after the Battle of Gettysburg. There were 620,000 soldiers that died on both sides. The carnage that was left over, the bodies, the pieces, everything that was left over, buried, put away, grave markers, tombstones. It's just unbelievable. And these women would go out there once a year, and they started it was like a day to remember these men that died. And it started to pick up steam. Matter of fact, Ulysses S. Grant coined it as, let's make this an official federal type holiday, Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And it was known as Decoration Day.
Oh, really? So that
originally.
Yeah, that sounds like decoration. What are we celebrating on Decoration Day?
Well, they would decorate the tombstones.
Oh,
right,
okay,
right.
Okay.
They'd take flowers out, whatever. But the name Memorial Day goes back to 1882. But the older name, Decoration Day, didn't actually disappear until World War II. Federal law.
Probably because there were idiots like me that are like, "What are we decorating? Is it a tree? Isn't that Christmas? What are we doing here?" I didn't. Yeah.
Federal law declared it Memorial Day officially in 1967.
Wow, that's kind of
officially.
That's kind of recently.
Yeah. So both names stuck around for a while, but the whole official Memorial Day name was instituted in 1967. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which is in Arlington Cemetery, on the tomb it says, "Here rest in honor, glory, an American soldier known but to God." And they had placed ashes of one of the soldiers from World War I in there, as well as soldiers from World War II and the Korean War.
Yeah, if you ever had a chance to go out there and watch that changing of the guard, it is really amazing. Have you seen it?
I have. It is. I've posted up pictures of changing the guard. There's a Marine that stands guard of this big giant block, this big giant tomb, and does a parade march back and forth in front of it. With his rifle, and nonstop. Like, you don't stop him, he doesn't stop. And then they'll change, and another one will come in.
He almost looks like one of those Japanese robots because as he walks, it's so fake looking because it's very slow, methodical steps. And if I remember correctly, I don't even know if it makes a sound as he's marching because he doesn't hit his feet hard on the ground. It's like he's floating across as he's marching, and his head won't bob up and down at all. It's like a perfectly straight line. If you were to do like an imaginary line from the top of his head across as he walks, it's straight. It doesn't wave up and down as he walks. It's just amazing the amount of work and discipline it must be to be able to do that. And I think, was it like a half hour or something that they do? Which doesn't sound like a long time, but to do what they're doing with that kind of discipline for 30 minutes.
Well, what if it's raining?
Oh, then they'll do it in rain. Well, it was a hurricane there. They did it in a hurricane.
What about when it's snowing?
No, they don't ever stop.
How about in the middle of the night when it gets dark?
Is it?
It's nonstop.
Okay,
yeah.
I was going to say, I'm assuming that the cemetery isn't even open. I assume it closes. Don't all parks and cemeteries?
Yeah, all national parks and cemeteries do close.
But you're saying that it doesn't matter if they're open or closed.
I don't believe not. Okay. All the pictures that I've ever seen in the snow and the rain and the sleet, hurricanes, tornado, whatever it is, there's always a Marine.
There's a story I heard. The story I heard during this last hurricane, I'm sorry I'm not prepared. I don't have the name of the hurricane. Hurricane was coming into Washington, D.C., so of course there was a lot of evacuations. There was a lot of preparation. It was like... was
the hurricane with the big hug-off with Obama and Chris Christie?
Sandy?
One? Yeah.
Maybe or maybe not, I can't remember. But it was, or it may have been, because around that time, around that location, they told the guards of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, well, we're evacuating everybody. We're making everybody do this. You don't have to do it if you don't want to.
You can pack it in, boys.
This is a special case where we're going to allow you to not do it because it'd be crazy. So, you don't have to. And, you probably shouldn't. And they're like, right. And they went out there and they did it. And there were, of course, either some amateur journalists or possibly professional, I don't know, videotaped them during this thing. There's like branches flying by them.
Amazing.
Yeah, like horizontal. I'm not really sure in those kind of winds what would hold their cover on. By the way, for those of you laymen out there, cover means hat.
Right.
But anyway, I remember that kind of a cover isn't really
it was easy to blow off.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was heavy, but it also wasn't hugging your head like you would think, like a ball cap.
Right.
Doesn't do that. Not even designed that way at all. So that would have been interesting. And if it did blow off, what would you do? Do you break and run over there and grab it?
I don't know.
Well, remember the one guy yelled at the somebody joking around in there, hooting and hollering? And he stopped what he was doing. And I have mixed feelings about that. I guess if his job is to do that, then it was great that he did that. But he stopped. You could look this up on YouTube. And he yells at the guy.
The Marine yells at him.
He stops what he's doing, pivots and faces him, and just goes off. And he did it in a way that sounds like he was trained to do it exactly that way.
Oh.
Like almost like he didn't lose his bearings. So I had mixed feelings about it because I wasn't sure if he broke protocol when he did that.
Right. Is it like the guards at the palace for the monarchy in England?
Dude, they're teabagging.
What?
They're like abusing those people.
Oh yeah, those guards.
Because
they're never
supposed to sit there and not ever.
So it may have been a Brit that came to Arlington Cemetery
and
to try and mess with the Marines.
Like, he ain't gonna do it.
They ain't gonna do it. Oh, he's calling me out.
Well, here's the thing: the guy that got yelled at, he wasn't messing with the guard. He was just laughing about something. And when you go in there, you're supposed to show respect, and you're not supposed to be hooting, hollering, laughing, and carrying on. You're supposed to be in there to show respect. And this Marine was not having it.
Wow.
And he stopped and he told him to shut the H up. And I don't know if that was. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But,
right.
But however he did it very professionally.
Something that I didn't know, but in 2000, the millennium, Congress established a national monument of remembrance, which asks Americans to pause for 1 minute at 3 p.m. an act of national unity. The time was chosen because 3 p.m. is the time when most Americans are enjoying their freedom on the national holiday.
Okay, so it's kind of like a catch-all. Thing is that's 4 different times or more if you consider. Yeah, there's time zones.
Right.
So it's not really national unity. I busted him.
Wow.
It should be 1 time for Pacific, 1 time for Mountain, 1 time for Central, and they should all be at the exact same time.
Well, because everything revolves around New York City.
I'm sure it'll be on Eastern time.
The world revolves around New York, according to New York City.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So when they say 3 p.m., they mean 3 p.m. New York time.
Eastern Standard
Time.
And they don't say Eastern time. They always say Eastern Standard Time.
Because that's standard.
Yeah, we're not. It's not. We're letting you know.
This is standard.
That we are not even acknowledging anything you do.
If you are in California, you're in L.A., mark that as noon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 3 hours earlier.
God, and they don't wake up at that time. They are like, oh, I gotta set my alarm for that.
And they're like, what? I've got to be silent for unity of America?
So, do you have to stand in the position of attention, or you just lay in your bed? Because I'm thinking out west, they hit the snooze a couple times, and then finally they're like, okay, it's 12.
Well, they might roll out to the hammock out on the beach.
Okay. And then from there, as long as they remain silent, they're showing their respect.
Right.
And unity.
Right. Can't speak up. Just be quiet for 1 full minute. Try and get your kids to do that.
Well, if you have good parenting skills.
Whoa.
A whole minute?
Whoa, a whole minute.
Boy. Oh, so.
And we've talked a lot here on the show about the different wars that America has been in and in its existence of 235 years. But this is this is really what it's all about. The Civil War, which completely transformed this entire nation. It was white Republicans who wanted and knew that all men were created equal and believed that slavery should be abolished, attempted to do that at the turn of the 1800s, and finally it came all the way to a war, the North and the South. And ironically, there's still people in the South to this day who have what they call Gray Memorial Day.
What? What is that? Oh, Gray!
Where they remember the Confederate soldiers.
Well, you know what? This is controversial.
Uh-oh.
No, I mean, it's not just my position. I mean, it's just in general, people don't like to think this, but the Confederate people were only Confederates while they seceded.
Right.
Before they did, they were Americans. After they lost the war, they were Americans.
Right, they were just Confederates, but they were always Americans.
And they died for what they believed in, even though I think they were wrong and all that kind of stuff. And some of them may even thought that what they were doing was right, even to this day in hindsight, and would say that they would do it again.
Right.
But at the end of the day, let them, have a memorial for their ancestors or whatever that died for their cause. Or
did you know that in 1862, December 23rd, just 2 days before Christmas, the South elected a president for themselves named Jefferson Davis.
Oh, yeah. Well known if you're up on your Civil War history.
And if you've ever watched Dukes of Hazzard, that was Boss Hogg's name.
His name was
Jefferson Davis Hogg.
Oh, my goodness.
J.D. Hogg.
J.D. Hogg. I remember that.
Yeah, man.
J.D. Hogg.
Right. And they also started to print their own money. They wanted to literally become their own, secede from the Union.
Oh, it was going to be a completely separate nation.
Oh, absolutely. That was their goal.
Yeah.
And if we never fought, and we've talked about this before, imagine never fighting the Civil War. Or imagine the Confederates win the Civil War.
It would be...
Would there still be slavery today in America?
Oh, yeah, certainly. In the South?
Anyway,
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean...
certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one... You can't deny... Because there's all these people that try to muddy the water by trying to twist the reality and the facts. Like, oh, the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. In fact, he said Lincoln didn't free the slaves until he had to. In fact, he even stated that if he thought he could end this war by not freeing the slaves, that he would. And he may have even offered that. But come on, we all know what this was about. We all know what this is about. Don't sit there and try to be a revisionist historian and make up this new lie in order to justify your hatred of America. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Right. I had some statistics, and I've since misplaced them, but I put it up on Facebook. So if you follow us on Facebook, you will see those stats. But I ran across some stats on slavery in the world today.
Okay.
And that they went over some of the numbers, and they're saying currently there are more blacks worldwide enslaved today than there were back in the 1700s when we fought the war.
Well, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a numbers guy.
Which is probable because of the amount of population.
Yeah, population growth would make sense mathematically how that could be.
Right.
Because I would say percentage-wise, slavery, and I'm just guessing this, I would guess that slavery was more prevalent back in the mid-1800s and earlier,
right,
percentage-wise, than it is today. But you say that the total number of slaves is higher than it was back then. That would make perfect sense to me.
Right. So. Except in America.
Oh, well, of course.
Because apparently in America, there are none.
Well, you would think. I mean, that makes sense.
I mean,
that makes sense.
It's illegal to own somebody in America.
Yeah.
And we led the charge on that back in the 1800s. I mean, you should have seen all the countries that used slavery and slave labor as a way to get certain things done. I mean, even all the way up to the South America. You've got Africa. Even as far as China, places, in the Middle East. I mean, slavery was rampant everywhere, and America led that charge so that it wouldn't be, especially not in America, because we were founded for the people. The people were more important than the government. That's what America was founded for and why. And that just because your skin is black or your skin's a different color, that doesn't make you less free or more free than somebody else. It's those inalienable rights that we talk about, those God-given rights that are handed down. And you can take advantage of that here in America. Anyone can take advantage of that here in America, regardless. If you don't even have to speak English, and you can come to America and be extremely successful, taking full advantage.
It'd be harder if you don't know English, but it can be done.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I got into a knockdown, drag-out argument with this guy on YouTube comment sections about the plight of the poor and all that kind of stuff, and we went back and forth about that, about how we need to gut out all these socialist programs and laws and policies and regulations and replace them with capitalist ideologically driven policies, which is pretty much free market, freedom to let people start businesses and hire people and pay them whatever the market pays them,
right.
Have them negotiate for the salaries and all that, and then we would have a lot less poverty and all that kind of stuff. But
They also some of the numbers that I was looking at was around the turn of the century, around 1900, in the Middle East. It's something that's not taught in our schools that we like to bring up here. We like to bring up things here on the radio show that won't be taught in schools, that should be taught in schools, is the number of blacks that have been enslaved by Islamic nations, Arab nations, Middle Eastern nations.
And see, I don't even know that.
Specifically by Islamic nations. Around 1900, there's about 20 million blacks that were enslaved by Arab slave traders. Others believe the number to be over 20 million. Most of them taken from Africa, obviously, if they're black. I mean, I don't know where else in the 1900s you'd be getting it. Maybe in Egypt.
Well, they refer to it as the African slave trade, so it must be from, mostly from Africa. I imagine. I haven't heard much beyond that. So
right. So, but I mean, there's the slave trade. Slavery was huge back in the day. At the same time, America was banning it and getting rid of it.
Will it go back before America? Before America, the slave trade started hundreds of years before the Declaration of Independence. So, anyway, we're getting a little bit off the topic of Memorial Day, but
yeah, and that's the biggest thing that I want to talk about was the fact that the Memorial Day came about because of the Civil War, because of all the carnage, because of all the deaths, to enable Americans, people who lived here, who were Americans, to be free regardless of your color.
So if you somehow are a beneficiary, which every American is, of those that sacrificed, made the ultimate sacrifice during the Civil War, which led to the Memorial Day holiday, this is something you should celebrate.
Absolutely.
And not, look at it like, yeah, we don't. There's just too many people out there that they hate America so much.
Well, and the reason why is because they haven't been taught these things. I mean, whether it be the songs of that we heard, America the Beautiful. I mean, there's certain songs that we used to sing, if you will, as kids in grade school, and to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Those things aren't taught anymore.
They're so ashamed of America. It's a shame that they're ashamed of America because the things that they are ashamed of America over are not really true, or at least not exactly the way that they're teaching. I mean, we're not totally free of any sin, but my God, if you take the good and the bad and you look at it as this is true and this is not true, and you cut out all the things that aren't really true, and history's taught properly, you find that there's a lot more good with America that's come from America than not.
And then some of the things that I've talked about, and when I reminisce and I think about all the things that are going on that are just so horrible that are going wrong with America, whether it be the big government or the politicians that lied. And if you got into any of the news this week, it's all the same stuff again. Hillary's going down the tank, and everything's coming out about her about lying and cheating and stealing.
I'll tell you what,
but that's just. I mean, that's politicians. It's just what they do now. And the more power they want, the more hungry they are. However, if you look at America as a whole, in 230 plus years, we went from zero, literally nothing, we didn't even have a country, to being the world's greatest superpower. And then, we got Obama taking us away from being that superpower and being a symbol to the world of freedom and strength. However, it's taken these communists hundreds of years to be able to start to tear away and claw away at everything that we've built. So whether it be, Glenn Beck being extremely negative, saying this is the end of America forever, this is the fall of America, it'll never come back.
He's a little bit pessimistic about it.
I still have a lot of hope in the American people, a lot of faith in the American people, and hope for America as a country as a whole. I mean, we just got to keep doing what we're doing with the radio show, getting the word out, talking to your friends, being informed, informing friends, talking to them about politics. I get so frustrated with some of the folks that when you bring up the word politics or bring up something politically, a story of the day, that people start to pull back and get a little, oh, no, I'm not into politics. I'm like, well, you should be.
They're scared of having their position starting an argument.
Right, or wanting to defend their position but not knowing how.
Yeah, and that's big.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I think that people need to just realize two things. Number one, you're not, unless you do this full time for a long time, you're not going to be able to perfectly defend all your positions to anybody that comes along and catches you off guard with a challenge that you're not ready for. That's something you need to realize.
Right.
And you need to be at peace with that. And that even if you can go home and get in front of your research and get out a big drafting board and plot out the defense to every single political position that you hold, right, you're not going to be able to regurgitate that perfectly when somebody out at work or at a bar or whatever decides to start questioning you about it. And you need to be at peace with that. But then the second thing is if you start, giving somebody the third degree and asking him what his political beliefs are, he's, no matter who, maybe a Rush Limbaugh will be able to head you off at every pass.
Well, and
but he's an exception, not the rule.
But here is a very easy way to learn how to talk to somebody to be able to get your point across, is to ask leading questions.
Give me an example of that.
Well, when someone like when I first met this girl, she blurted out just out of the blue, "George Bush is stupid."
Oh yeah, I've had that before.
And I was like, "Whoa, oh, okay." I could go one of two ways with that. I could either go on the offensive and attack and put out examples of why he's not and defend George Bush, or I could take the easy way out and say, why would you think that?
I would go even more benign. I would say, what do you mean?
What makes you... what do you mean? Why do you say that? What do you mean?
I didn't know that.
Really?
Can you explain that? And if they have all their bullets loaded up, ready to fire, they could start firing some at you, but you're going to find one that is indefensible.
We'll do it here. The very next thing was, well, just listen to him talk.
Okay. I mean, what am I listening for? I mean, is there something I'm missing?
He stutters. Well, he's got that Texas. All these people in Texas are also.
He has an accent.
He's a hick, hayseed.
Because of his accent.
See, this is what I'm talking about. When you become good at this, all you're doing is just asking questions, and it puts that person into
the defense
in a tailspin. They start to go into a tailspin.
When you ask them, if you're always the one asking the questions, you are on the offense big time.
Right.
You have the steering wheel of the conversation. So you always respond with a question and play dumb at first, but you should know how to lead them down the path.
Listen to what they're saying. And if you listen to what they're saying closely, you'll be able to come back with a really good question that will wind. And I've seen it too, like when people start screaming about minimum wage. That's an easy one. It happens all the time.
Okay, well,
raise the minimum wage.
They need to raise the minimum wage.
Really?
They should.
What do you think they should raise it to?
Well, I think they're talking about $15 an hour, and I think that's a good place to go.
Well, where should they stop?
Well, I guess for right now, $15 is fine. Because right now it's so low, it's just not a living wage. If you're a single parent with a family of 4 and you got cable and you got to smoke pot every night and drink beer and pop your pills, I mean, you need money for all that stuff.
How about $25 an hour?
That'd be nice. That'd be real nice.
How about 50?
I guess.
That'd
make everybody rich. There's corporate shills. They don't have it. they don't need all that money. So we got billionaires out there.
So where do we stop? Let's make everybody guaranteed $200,000 a year paychecks.
Okay.
And we'll all be millionaires.
Oh, that sounds like a plan to me. I'd like to be a millionaire, wouldn't you?
And if you got somebody biting and holding on this long, you shouldn't be talking to them.
Well, no, I mean, at that point, you could ask them something like, well, where's all this money come from? And then you're going to start to see chinks in their armor. Because then they'll have to say something that's going to be outrageously stupid, and then that's what you grab hold of.
And you can go online while we're live, and you can log into Spreaker.com and pick us up, Smith Radio, and you can text information back to us and forth while we're live. Yeah, we have a couple of live people. And one of the comments was, George probably wasn't the brightest, but at least he loved his country, unlike this abomination.
Well, that's a start. It's nice to have somebody...
a current dictator.
Yeah, okay. It's nice to have that as a starting point. We had somebody that truly, genuinely, or at least did a good job of tricking me if he didn't, that he actually loved the country. Isn't it sad?
It's horrible that is the bar.
That's the bar.
That is the bar.
Oh,
we have to start at, okay, do you love your country, yes or no?
Why is the moderator at the debates asking that question? Exactly.
Well, Candy Crowley, right. If you folks know, she's the one that
bailed
Obama out.
Totally bailed him out.
When Mitt Romney not only had him on the ropes,
he was
had him hanging himself on the...
Well, we don't go down there.
Yes, and so then Candy Crowley, the moderator, bailed Obama out.
She's a complete Democratic plant, and nobody knew at the time. But I mean, I think the Republicans, as Rush has been saying this for years, they need to be a little bit more picky and do a little bit more homework on the people that are moderating these debates. The fact that Candy Crowley was able to go in there and bail Obama out from getting destroyed by Mitt Romney is such a shame. But in Obama's defense, I don't know if I'm defending Obama or attacking Romney here, but he should have been able to recover from that. I mean, he was like a deer in headlights at that point.
Well, when the teleprompter's not on.
We're talking about Mitt Romney.
Oh, sorry.
Mitt Romney was like a deer in headlights once, and he was probably just stunned, like, wait, what just happened here?
Did you just defend? You're the moderator. Did you just defend?
He should have attacked her, which would have been unprecedented because it's never needed to happen before.
Right.
When in American history has the moderator been so put into this debate to where one of the candidates would have to turn to her and say, "Who am I debating here?"
Am I debating the sitting president, or am I debating you, the moderator, Candy Crowley?
Best response would have been like, "Oh, I think he's a big boy. I think he can answer this himself.
Yeah.
He don't need any help from you, Monica."
Wow.
And I know that they probably paid you to do that.
Wow.
But you know what? You don't need to because he's a big boy.
And I'm going to go ahead.
Is that condescending?
Oh, no. And that's what they do to us. So, and Monica, by the way, I'm also going to call Fox News, and we're going to have the second debate on Fox, which is not owned part and parcel part of
they did have
the
one
government
debate on Fox. I can't remember who's the.
But the rest, all the debates, the majority of the debates, were
all
on CNN, MSNBC, CBS,
ABC, all that stuff.
The long arm of the government.
Well, it's
the communist government.
Well, it's the Democratic arm of the
Democrat Party.
The propaganda wing of the Democrat Party. That's what it is. The propaganda wing. All right. So anyway.
So you got the left wing, you got the wings of the White House, and one of the wings is the...
You get the West Wing.
That's it, the West Wing.
I've never heard of the East Wing. Is there not an East Wing?
There's got to be an East Wing.
All I hear about is the West Wing.
I think we're showing some ignorance here. I have no idea.
Somebody in the White House, I know you're listening. You got the NSA on.
Right? Oh, they do.
Go ahead and give us a call right now. They probably they don't even need to log in to listen to us. They got the whole place bugged.
You know it. So the Central Wing is the media. You got the West Wing.
Oh, are you looking this up right now?
You got
Educate us.
You got the West Wing. You got the East Wing.
What is the East Wing?
It also includes the White House Theater and the visitor entrance.
Oh, that's why they never talk about it. The visitor entrance in the theater? Okay.
The greenhouse occupies the east grounds of the White House, and the center wing would be the media.
Okay.
MSNBC,
but they're not center.
That's what these are all the words that they want you to believe. They're centrists.
Okay.
Right down the middle.
I will go right along with you on that, I guess. Just lead me right along. Okay, speaking of communists, guess what the breaking news is right now? Have you ever seen the movie A Beautiful Mind?
Yes, I have.
Well, you know the website Hollywood Message that we need to start blogging
HollywoodMessage.com.
Yep. Which is not currently up and running or even made yet, but I'm going to make it into a blog. And I wanted to write about the communism or lack thereof, or even conservative message coming out of Hollywood when they make movies and stuff like that. So they made a movie called A Beautiful Mind, and it was supposedly based on a true story about a guy named John Nash. And he's supposedly this brilliant guy who's also completely crazy.
Right.
And, the first couple times I seen the movie, I wasn't really that politically active, I don't think. And if I was, I may have actually been a liberal just because I was young and dumb and didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Right.
And I thought, this is a pretty cool movie, and didn't know the thick message they were laying on you. So, basically what John Nash did was he was the first person to come out with an economic theory that threw everything that they learned from Adam Smith under the bus.
Capitalism, trade corporations.
Threw it out and said,
businesses.
Yeah, so he came up with this theory, and I haven't seen the movie in a while, so I'm really digging deep in my memory here. But his theory was that if instead you go after what's best for you and everybody else, the whole group, you'll end up with better than if you just went after your own interests. So, for instance, he gives a perfect example in the movie. They're all at a bar, him and all of his friends. There's like him and 3 friends, all right? So it's 4 guys total. Into the bar walks 5 girls.
Oh, that's right!
4 of them were okay looking. They were okay. They may have been a little under, a little over, but they were okay. They weren't ugly, but they were okay looking. And the one friend in this group of 5 girls was stunning. She was taller than the rest of them. She just had everything well put together. She had her makeup perfect. She looked like a model. And she had that bubbly personality, big smile ear to ear. And they all looked at each other and said, I'm getting that tonight. All of them. And then the big light bulb hit. John Nash realized if we all go after that girl, we're all going to be blocking each other, and we're all going to be beating each other up over one girl. Most likely, she's not going to go with any of us, and what is going to happen is we're going to go for our second choice, which is the other 4 girls. They're going to be upset that they're not the first choice, and all 4 guys are going to go home with nobody.
Right.
So what his theory was is if we all ignore the best-looking girl and all pick one of the average girls, we'll all go home with somebody tonight. And so he turned that into an economic theory that had also been expanded into treaty negotiations and all that stuff. So he's basically saying if you're a dictator and you're going into summit negotiations for treaties and all that kind of stuff, avoid the hot chick and just take what's best for not just you but everybody else, and the sum gain will be better than everything. So that's but what ends up happening is that may actually work if everybody can go along with it. As soon as one person decides, well, you know what, y'all can take the average
y'all
girl.
can take that thing.
Hey, while you guys are going after the average girls, I'm going to go ahead and act like I might, and then I'm going to go for the hot girl. Right. Okay, so obviously in theory it only works when everybody's cooperating.
So because that's how communism works, possibly.
Everybody has to cooperate, or else it all goes down the tubes. But also, You can't throw out capitalism. Capitalism, when done correctly, without being tainted with or infected with the cancer of communism,
correct,
can be made to be perfect.
Right.
It can be. I can make the argument that it can be.
When big governments feel like they need to get involved, and a lot of times they will get involved. Politicians like to get involved. Governments like to get involved because if they're not doing anything and everything is going well, they're afraid that they may be seen as not doing anything and being irrelevant.
That's the problem with Congress and
there's too many people up there doing nothing.
They're all up there, and the entire country has been brainwashed into thinking that them going up there and not accomplishing anything is a failure.
Right.
If anything, they should be accomplishing with a big, huge, giant eraser and an axe. And they should be erasing laws, regulations. They should be piling books and books and books of laws and regulations into a giant pile, and they should be dumping gasoline all over it.
Right. The jobs numbers came out, and unemployment ticked down. 5.2.
I didn't want to get off the. Reason.
This is part of the whole government.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to get off of John Nash.
We'll get right back. Yeah.
We'll get back to
it. The unemployment ticked down to 5.2. However, the unemployed and not looking for job, 109 million Americans not working that could be working, and everybody wants the government to do something.
Yeah.
And you and me together, we know for a fact what the government needs to do is get out of the way.
Specifically, get out of the way of the companies that
who do the hiring.
Industries, but more, it could be specifically companies, but probably more importantly, entire industries that they're regulating to death. That's preventing the growth that's going to get all these people hired.
Right.
But anyway, so that's
capitalism.
Back to
John Nash.
John Nash was killed in a New Jersey taxi crash. He's dead.
Wow.
And it's a shame. I mean, seemed like a very troubled and pretty smart guy if you base it on the movie. It's a shame, though. Basically what happened was, and this is, I'm not sold on the brilliance of John Nash, and here's why.
I am not at all. But
here's why. I think that when you got a guy that can come along and say, hey, I know you guys are trying to battle this capitalist thing because you're all a bunch of communists and you'd rather just institute communism. I've got a mathematical proof that can throw Adam Smith under the bus, whether or not it's right, wrong, true, or not real. All the communists who are in the power to give this guy the clout are going to be like, heck yeah, dude, you're our new savior. And they basically sainted him.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't matter whether or not he's a brilliant man. They're going to tell you he is because he came along and said...
just like they're telling us that Obama's a brilliant man.
Yeah, because he's just trying to institute the communism. He's doing what they've been wanting done forever. He's doing the Joseph Stalin and Vladimir Lenin thing, which is we're putting communism in, and if you get in our way... Now, I'm not saying that Obama is going around killing people, but, you know, I could see it leading to that point because what he's doing with the NSA and the IRS and the IRA and all this stuff...
the IRA and your retirement.
Yeah, well, no. The Irish Republican Army. The Irish Republican Army.
Wow.
That would be terrorists up there in Ireland, which we have breaking news about Ireland.
Yes.
We are getting on so many tangents.
Wow.
But anyway, John Nash died, you know. I would say God rest his soul, but...
He doesn't believe in God.
I'm pretty sure. I don't want to, you know... Maybe his family would email us and say, hey, he was a God-fearing Christian. And I'd be
just
like,
a little
whoops.
sidetracked, but okay.
Sorry.
Breaking news on Ireland.
Ireland.
Gay marriage will be accepted in the country. However,
it's legal.
It's legal.
Okay.
However, the problem I'm still having is that we need to come up with a new word for gay marriage. Because there's no such thing. It's like saying icy hot, or hot ice, or fire water.
Okay.
There's no such thing as fire water.
It's not. It can't be fire and water.
Right.
Right. So what you're saying is they can't.
They can't claim marriage.
I mean, it's not theoretically, but it's totally within the realm of.
So what did we come up with? What's the new word?
What was it again?
Garage.
Garage. All right. So they have now instituted garage.
It's legal.
Yeah,
being legal.
Should it be pronounced garage or gayridge?
Oh.
We'll have to cross that.
Throw that around a little bit. Go ahead and call
whatever rolls off your tongue easier.
Garage or gayridge?
Gayridge. If you say garage, you might have to explain that. But if you say gayridge,
it's gay marriage, right?
It might be something that people would say, "Oh, is that what I think it is?" And yeah, right. So it is.
So the first country to go down and
actually allow garage.
And the article was saying something that the government wasn't wanting to institute this, but the people had voted on it of sorts. I don't know. I find that very hard to believe that the majority of heterosexual individuals would.
Maybe we should
just don't do that in America.
Maybe we should tell the listening audience what our position is on this, which I can just tell you that we don't have a problem with gay people doing whatever they want to do.
No, enjoy yourself. Be free.
Don't sit there and expect me to accept a false definition of a word, right, which in this case is marriage. Right. And if you look up the definition of marriage, especially what it was before liberals started tinkering with the online dictionaries and adding new definitions to it, or just completely changing it altogether, it's the relationship of a man and a woman. One man, one woman.
Well, just like people who jump the border, criminals who jump the border into America to do whatever criminal act they want to do, whether it be to falsify documents, get a job, make money. I mean, which are all illegal and criminal acts, to be referred to as alien people or
illegal aliens.
Illegal aliens or
well, they don't even have to break the law once they get here.
Undocumented workers.
Yeah, they're constantly trying to change the name. I could see how I would not want to be called an illegal alien, but that's what it's called because it's a word or phrase that has been defined.
Right. You're illegally
something.
You're illegally entering into another country,
and
which means you're foreign. You're an alien. You're not of that country. You're an alien.
Right. It doesn't mean you're from outer space.
Right.
I know, for those of you in Westwood, we're not saying it's like we don't slander these people. They're from another country. They're not from outer space. And by the way, people in Westwood do not talk like that. But that was just my little. Ooh, whose voice is that? Is that Pelosi?
No,
it sounds like Pelosi.
So,
are you sure it's not Pelosi?
No, she won governorship.
She sounds like she's 150 years old.
Republican, yeah.
She's Republican?
Yeah.
Is it Sarah Palin? No, just kidding.
Just kidding. Folks, we said it was going to be a short show this week just because there's a lot going on, a lot of things happening.
And we're tired.
But I saw you lead up into the street post.
But I'm tired. We need that soundbite.
We are all over the place for you.
That's right.
That's what we do here, folks.
Smith Radio.
So enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Remember what this is all about. Say a prayer for our country, for America, to continue the freedom that we have. Take a moment of silence at 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and know that we'll be doing that as well. So, till next week, folks, you have an incredible evening. Good night now.
Good night.
with unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.